Jana, welcome to the Scenic Route podcast. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you, Jennifer?
I'm good. I just told Jana that my kid's not feeling well today. But he's with his dad now, and I'm excited to talk about a really an interesting and juicy topic, our relationship with fear. Because man, I don't know about you, Jana, but when I think back, there certainly were things where I'm like, I'm not doing this. And I gave myself some kind of bullshit reason not to do things. But when I'm looking back, I would be like, I actually just was fucking scared. So from your end, how I think we're gonna roll it up from the very beginning. Like what is fear really? Um from like a psychological and also somatic point of view, and what's its purpose?
Well, if we go back to our animal instinct, if you want, fear is this kind of like a warning sign when there's a perceived or actual threat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we go back again, like to the animal inside us, what the body and the mind want to do is protect me,
Mm-hmm.
protect ourselves. So when we perceive that there's an external threat, whether it's physical threat, so I hear a roar of a lion, and there's this immediate trigger in my mind that exactly that there's a possibility that I'm in danger, and it induces a physiological, like my body shifts, my mind is alert, and that is fear because I'm scared that there's something that's gonna happen to me. So it's a worry, it's a perceived threat that creates an emotional, biological, psychological reaction where
Mm-hmm.
my whole system is ready to help me be safe in case something is dangerous or something is about to happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's the animal side, right? And that is kind of like the more extreme side, a lion roaring. But
Yeah.
fear can be totally different. It can be I'm going out with my friends and I have social anxiety and I'm scared of going out. So there's a perceived threat that I'm going to be judged or so on and so forth. And again, my body is perceiving a threat and it's creating the same, almost the same psychological, physiological reaction that it might even have if you heard a lion roaring. So there's many different types of fears, many different reasons we could feel fear, but at the essence of it, it is our system protecting us from a perceived or
Mm-hmm.
real threat. I would say a lot of times it's perceived and it's
Yeah,
not real
I thought so. Like, yeah,
because
we're gonna go into
yeah,
perceived threat
yeah,
for
because
sure.
we're not surrounded by lions, right? But we're always
Most of us are not. No.
yes, most of us are not, but we're constantly perceiving that we are in some
Yeah,
way.
exactly. So I'm curious, how then does like we said, okay, fear has kind of like an evolutionary purpose. It once was really important to make us cautious and slow down and be like on high alert for real threats. Uh,
Yes.
so how does this like evolutionary purpose align or conflict with our modern lives? Like as you said, we're not surrounded by lions, but at the same time, I feel so many of us are in almost a chronic state of fear.
Yes. 100%. So first, let's recognize that thank you, fear. Like imagine if there was no fear and we were
Thank you
never
for keeping me
scared.
safe.
Exactly, we were never scared. So that is the purpose of it, right? And it has a
Mm-hmm.
purpose. And without fear, we would be just so careless and we would take too many risks beyond what is needed, right? But when it starts to become limiting is when we're not recognizing the truth that we are constantly in an imagined fear state. So we're
Mm.
constantly worrying about things that could happen, very small probability, whether it's fear of what if I die, what if I fail, what if I'm judged, what if I'm rejected, what if I'm so on and so forth. It's endless, right? Constantly worrying about things that could happen because of possibly things we've experienced in the past. So we're
Mm-hmm.
constantly living in a worry state. and not living in reality, what is really happening. And this is when fear starts to stand in the way because it's just an imagined state and it's no longer real. So this is where our role becomes in what is real and what is imagined here.
Which brings me to the follow-up question. For so many of us, I know before I really dove into mindset work and really also somatic work and change work, it was hard to distinguish, to actually see that I'm in a worry state, right? Because it felt so normal to worry about all these things and to be fearful of all these things. And it felt like it's my character, right? Like I've been doing it forever, which, and it took quite a lot of work to be realized, no, actually, it's not. I'm not. For some, there might be more cautious as a character type per se, but it was not my character. It wasn't me.
Mm.
How can we start to feel into, is it, am I just really like a cautious person?
Yeah. Mm.
Or how can we distinguish,
Mm.
oh no, I'm actually in a worry state all the time and it's
Mm.
not something I want or something
Mm.
that is supporting me?
Yeah. Oh, I love this so much. I feel like, oh, okay, let's get into it.
Yes, I'm
So,
serving here, so
yeah, so
take it
exactly,
away.
what you're saying is really important because what you're saying is like you're almost protecting an identity that has been created, and that identity has been created to keep you
Yes.
safe again, right? So, growing up, we create an identity, and we, the mind, wants to, as much as possible, protect the identity that we have created because that identity is what is known to us.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean
Known equals safe.
non equal safe,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that it's equal to good or my higher self or my best self. As in, my known could be I'm in a constant state of stress and worry, and I don't believe in myself.
Yeah.
That could be my known.
Yeah. Or I am overeating, I am over drinking, I'm
That's my
tuning
way of
out of, yeah, of
exactly.
regulating. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So I create a persona, an identity. Let's call it the ego, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the ego is constantly wanting to identify that this is me. This is my story. Don't take it away from me.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts to feel safe, even if it has a lot of kind of negative charge to it,
Mm-hmm.
let's say. So the moment you want to do something outside that safe box is the moment fears start to really come up. And is the moment where you start to feel like, oh, I'm daring to think outside the box. I'm daring to say that this is not me. And then you really start to feel this kind of fear coming up, doubts coming up. And our role is to actually take a step back and look what is in that identity that I've created serving me really, and what is not serving me. So the first step is to look at what identity have you created for yourself
Mm-hmm.
growing up, throughout your childhood, adulthood. What have you been creating to yourself? As we were just saying, I am the person who, one, two, three.
Mm-hmm.
Out of that creation, what is really serving me? Oh, actually, this is not really serving me. I know I grew up hearing I'm not good enough, but I'm sick of repeatedly saying that. Is that really serving my higher good? So, questioning the identity and then realizing that I can create a new identity. I can create a new way of being. I don't know if that's answering, if we take a step back to look at your question or where we were going with this.
Mm-hmm.
But first, it's really recognizing what are you identifying with and how is it serving you? You have to recognize that what you're
Mm-hmm.
identifying with might not be good for you.
100%. I feel it always starts with that. And if you're not new to the Scenic Route podcast, it always starts with self-awareness. Like, I mean, we're a broken record at this point, but it's just the case. And it's not, there's no magic bullet to like go from like a fear mindset to like an abundance or purpose mindset, or kind of like swift it really
Oh.
starts with that. And I feel it's so interesting that you brought up, yeah, like the identifying of the self and what do you really want and what do you really like stand for, because we're also seeing like how fear is being used to coerce you to influence, to manipulate, worst in the worst case, in several different ways, right? We all know it from a personal perspective, from personal experience, how fear influences our consumer behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Like how when we're scared of something, or when someone markets to us with a sense of
Mm-hmm.
fear, that we're like, oh yeah, oh fear, okay, I don't want to be this, so I'm gonna buy this product,
Mm.
only to realize it actually didn't help me at all.
Mm.
Right, so I think it's really interesting to bring the value component into it, and to
Mm-hmm.
really see, okay, what is my identity, and not let fear, your own fear or the fear that is applied onto you, steer you away from that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, like you said, it's really going back to a deep sense of self-awareness, of
Mm.
deep sense of self-awareness of what is kind of holding me back and what is really holding me back. Is it a real threat or is it a perceived, imagined threat? And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, marketing schemes, yes, I mean, they're selling to us our fears. Like, are you sick of procrastination? And are you sick of feeling judged and this and that? And do you want to do you want to get
Yeah,
this
well, or they
instead?
say it more
Yeah.
more like dominantly, in sense of, do you want to be like a lazy slob,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
it's
That is really.
really,
Yeah, it's really psychological, playing on pain points and so on.
yes.
And sometimes we do need that push. Sometimes we do need that person who's like, are you like done with this? And do you want to take that step forward? But I agree, there's a bit of an ethical question there to question when it comes to
Yeah,
marketing.
I don't know, I'm also interesting if we do need that sort of push. I agree, everyone is different, and for some this might actually be the push, but that push probably also ultimately has to come from yourself
Yes,
and
yes,
not externally,
yes,
right? Because otherwise, I don't know, I don't think it's gonna lead to lasting change
yes,
if otherwise, like I don't see it
100%.
possible.
It's always a self-initiation. I guess sometimes we need an inspiration because again,
Yes, I like the word. Yeah, I
yeah,
prefer the word inspiration. That
yes,
resonates much
yes,
more with me.
exactly.
100%.
So someone inspires you that, whoa, they were able to go from that state of fear, anxiety, or being held back to actually believing in themselves or creating some change in their life. And why we need that is because, again, the mind needs reassurance that it's okay for me to leave that identity that I've created and to start to identify with something new that can be, for me, so unknown, so different, and feel so unsafe, but that it's okay. It's just a perceived threat. So the mind can feel more at ease when it's inspired by seeing other people create change. And this is where kind of inspiration helps by
Mm-hmm.
us following people who are creating change in areas that we feel scared in taking steps
Yeah.
forward. And this is why community is important. But again, it should be a positive approach. I totally agree. And the decision to create change has to come from the person, but you can inspire people. You can inspire your
Mm-hmm.
friends, your family, and you can say, hey, like I'm doing it. So
Yeah.
if you want to inspire someone to create change rather than telling them to do it, you do it yourself, show them the results, inspire them.
Yeah.
When they're ready, they will.
Oh, 100%. And I think it's also inspiration. And that's also the where we see, or where I believe representation truly matters, right? If you see someone who looks like you and
Mm.
they're doing it, it's
Yeah.
much stronger as if you see someone that it looks nothing like you doing it, right? Like if you yet again see someone who is really like a blueprint of Western beauty standards doing something. It
Right.
might not, it doesn't relate to you as much as if someone, I don't know, with a darker skin tone or a fat person does something and you're like, oh, yes, holy fuck, yes. If she does it, I can do too. So I see like the inspiration and representation is
Yeah.
really closely tied together.
Yeah, because we want to be we want to know that it's also possible for us. So when
Mm-hmm.
someone is mirroring it, you're like, oh wow, they're the same as me and they were able to do it, so I
Mm-hmm.
can. So totally agree. You want to find people like so often the people you end up working with, whether it's coaches or therapists or like healers in general, probably resonate with you on a certain level, like they have a similar story or a similar background because you believe more that you can do it now that they have.
Mm-hmm.
It's all mind work. Really, it is.
Yeah, which again, if you're listening in and you're a healer, this is actually also the reason why your authenticity is your secret sauce or your magic bullet or however you want to call it, right?
Exactly.
Because the more comfortable you become with sharing parts of your unique story, the more common ground your potential clients can find to be like, oh, actually, yes, I can relate to this person.
100%.
Because I feel if they're so far out of touch, if they're completely unrelatable, I won't work with those people. Like I don't hire people. Like I never hired a coach or anyone. Yes, they must be aspiring to me, but if they're completely aloof, I'm like, no, that there's too the gap is too big. Like I don't think that's gonna work.
Totally
But
agree. Mm.
um, we're gonna circle back for a bit. We had it come up a few times, the distinction you've made between perceived threat and real or real, let's say real threat. It's still real if even if it's just perceived, because the mind doesn't really differentiate between that, as we know we've learned. um what, like from your client work and your expertise, what are there telltale signs that can give us a pointer if our fear is perceived, imaginary, or not? Or doesn't it matter?
Yeah, I would say definitely. You know, again, it goes back to, am I scared of something that would happen in the future? Like that's often the key question.
Oh,
The key
yeah,
question.
that's a good point.
Yeah,
Oh,
is
yes,
that
love it.
right? Am I in this moment getting like an? I'll give an example. There was a point where I really used to have a fear of flying, like going on airplanes. Like I would get anxiety. Forget the details, but for many different reasons, I would really get panic attacks on airplanes. And
Mm,
how I dealt with it was really by asking myself, is again, is this a real what I'm worried about? Like I'm worried that we'll have a car crash, God forbid, like a plane crash.
mm-hmm,
What's the possibility of that actually happening? Actually, if you look it up, it's very low, like maybe
yeah.
less than percentage. So what is the, so again, questioning. So what's the possibility of this actually happening? Am I worrying about something that's right now happening? Like, is it happening? Are the oxygen masks down? Like, is it happening? No. So I'm worrying about something in the future, right?
Mm-hmm,
That could happen, very low probability. So the moment I realize that it's not happening, it's not now, I can question the validity of it. Is
mm-hmm,
it really going to happen? Then I could question, so what if it does? Right? So if it does, what can I do about it? Okay, I can do one, two, three, right? So I can already support myself in relaxing in the moment that even if the low possibility happen, this is what I can do with it. So I would say step one is really taking a step back and checking in. Are you worried about something that is real or imagined, really? And if
mm-hmm,
it's imagined, it means it's not happening right now. It's just something that could happen in the future, and then questioning that.
mm. This is a good point. Really, the future component and realizing I am in this moment in time, I am safe.
Exactly. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, in this moment. And you know what? In the present moment, you're always safe. In the present moment, you're always fine.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, again, all fears, most of fears, unless there's a lion right next to you, then tell you, you're not safe, run
Yes,
for your
unless your
life.
plane is crashing down or you're in
Exactly,
an
like
immediate
pray. That's what,
emergency. Mm-hmm.
exactly. Then okay, in this moment, there's things you can still do. This is why, okay, then what? I can run, I can, fight, there's things you can still do even when there's actual threat. But in this moment, most of the times I'm 100% safe. I'll find support around me. I'll find a way to calm down. I'll find a way to navigate this in the
Mm-hmm.
moment. Most of the times it's safe. So a key technique, actually, if you experience
Mm-hmm.
panic attacks or anxiety, which are very common reactions to fear,
Mm-hmm.
right? Panic, anxiety, severe kind of physiological changes in the body where you really feel sometimes like you're having a heart attack. It could be that severe, is to come back to the present moment. And the way to do that is actually just connecting to your senses. So again, look around you. What's there?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
that,
yeah, that reminds me of I used to do before I was diagnosed with postpartum depression. I was had this weird anxiety flashes. Like,
okay.
I don't know, really weird stuff. Like the stroller with my newborn would fly over the bridge. Like, like really like that could never happen. So I wouldn't walk over that bridge because this could
Wow.
happen.
Hmm.
Bonkers. But I remember my psychotherapist. She at the time she told me the 4 5 4 3 2 1
Yes,
technique.
yes, exactly.
Right?
So
I had to. Yeah, you're go. That's
yeah,
reminded me
that's
when
where
you
I was
said about the
going.
senses. Yeah.
I love it. Exactly. And I love the example you gave. In the moment, if you come to your senses, find five things that you can see, four
Mm-hmm.
things. I don't remember which sense related to which numbers. I think it's four things you can hear, three things you can um,
I
maybe
think
feel,
touch. Yeah, touch.
and
Yeah.
then two things you can smell, and one thing you can
Yeah,
taste.
because taste is the hardest. So taste is
Yes.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would always mix up 4 and 3 too. It is
Yeah.
for touch or
But
hear. I'm like,
but
but it doesn't matter
irrespective,
basically.
exactly, irrespective, the whole goal of this exercise, and I always use it and never remember because I end up just doing like
Just don't
as
do
many as
five
I
things you
can.
can taste because then you really
Exactly.
need all. I mean, you only
Exactly.
have like 5 tastes or something, so
Yeah.
it's gonna be really
But
hard.
the point is, this is what mindfulness is, right? The point is, in the
Mm,
moment, you're becoming in touch, mindful of what is real.
mm,
So, what's real is what you can smell, what you can see, what you can actually feel. And you can do it now if you're listening, by the way. Like, look around you. What
mm,
can you see? What are you smelling? What are you tasting? What do you feel on your skin? Um, all of that. What are you hearing in the background? And you'll notice if you do this for just a minute or two, you feel so peaceful because you
mm,
are so present. You feel so much peace and calmness. And
mm.
in that state of calmness, you look around you and you're like, oh, life is good. And how crazy was I to think that, you know, my baby is gonna fly
Yeah,
somewhere.
I'm now looking back. I'm like, what? But it made so much sense in my
Yeah.
brain.
And that's your instinct, right? That's your
Mm,
motherly instinct. Again, that's, an imagined story, but you are anticipating something that on some level could maybe
mm,
happen, and you are anticipating so that to protect your baby because you love your baby. So again, thank you, fear. And I will say thank you, fear, for doing your best to protect me and
mm,
caring. But right now, I'm okay. I am safe.
mm. Is there another like technique that besides the 4 5 4 3 2 1 that you really like doing when you realize, oh, okay, my nervous system is like,
Yeah. So there's different techniques, and I would say we can look at it as mind and body, right?
mm-hmm,
So if we take one per each, so for the mind, it's very important because again, a lot of this is happening in the mind. Again, it's the mind playing,
yeah, the
imagining
mind is giving you the
scenarios.
scenario and then the body's reacting to it because the body doesn't know
Exactly.
if it's real or not at the
Exactly.
moment. Hmm.
That is one way, yes. So you could, again, question your mind. So remember that your mind, you are not the mind, right? And the mind is just a tool. So you don't need to accept everything the mind is giving you. So if my mind is giving me, again, let's take another example for people who want to step into out of the comfort zone, maybe take a step towards a dream, and then
Mm-hmm.
they imagine themselves failing, not making money,
Yeah. Poor
or
living under the bridge.
living under the bridge, losing everyone, and no one likes them anymore, and judging them and being judged and all of that.
Mhm.
And then questioning, right? Questioning the mind. So instead of saying, oh my God, and entertaining that, and that becomes like a circle and you're
Then you
affirming
get that
it.
loop, that endless loop of,
Exactly.
oh, yeah,
Fear,
yeah.
and I
Mm-hmm.
affirm it, and yes, and oh my God, I'm gonna be judged, and it's impossible. And then your words are affirming it, and then you're telling your friends it's too scary, and everyone's affirming. It's like becomes
It's
like
become self-fulfilling prophecy and it's doomed.
exactly, and eventually it becomes true because you're affirming it. Instead, actually, you can talk to your mind and you can almost catch it. I always say catch the mind. And I
Mm.
love, actually, I just snap my fingers. I literally like just like the moment I catch my mind playing games, I just snap my fingers. And that's my cue that, hey, I've
I
got
love
you.
it. Yeah,
I
I love
caught
it.
you. Like I caught you trying to play that game. I'm not gonna entertain that because just you're imagining something that's unrealistic, that's probably based on some weird childhood stuff that's happening there. I'm not gonna accept it. And instead, I'm gonna dictate to my mind what is the reality is that I'm amazing, I'm empowered, I'm resourceful, I have support. Again, you can feed your mind with the truth. And if you're not
Mhm.
sure what that is, write it down. What are your powers, your gifts, the support system that surrounds you? What
Oh,
is the
that
truth?
reminds me. One of my coaches, thank you, Jessica, once made me write a list of 50 things I love about myself.
I
And
love
it could
it.
not have been achievements.
Okay. Amazing. Like, wow.
It
So,
was hard.
exactly. So, really write things like
Mm.
about your powers, about the positive things, right?
Yeah.
So that the moment you catch the mind, you can feed it with, look,
Something else.
look at that. How can
This
you
is a
tell
proof.
How can you tell me that I'm gonna
Mhm.
fail when look at this? So this is,
Yeah.
affirmations. I'm sure I know you have, maybe a lot of people have heard of affirmations. And this is affirmations. It's this positive affirmations. It's feeding the mind with positive messages to
Hmm.
reinforce the true story, not the imagined fear.
Hmm.
That takes practice. It's not an overnight thing. You can practice doing it every night before you sleep. Write 3, 4 affirmations that are positive, that uplift you. You can do it in the morning, or you can constantly be practicing it even in your day-to-day life when you snap your fingers and catch the mind. That's the mind. That's a mind tool.
I love the
Affirmation.
snapping. I'm totally for the snapping. I'm gonna incorporate this.
I
Like
love it.
snapping and like mind. You're
Exactly.
just my employee. I'm the
Yes.
boss.
Yes, 100%. Like
Love it.
I really like let the mind be your servant almost. Like my
Hmm.
mind is my
Yeah,
servant.
your mind is your employee, not your boss.
Exactly. Like, hey, no. And you can say it out loud. Like sometimes I literally like, what am I entertaining here? Hey, no. Like,
I
but
love
it's
it.
so
Yeah.
powerful.
Hmm.
So the other part is the body. And yes, the body can be a reaction to the mind, but the body can also hold memories on its own. So sometimes, let's say we see something or someone and it triggers us. And it
Oh,
triggers us
yeah. I
in a
think we've all been
biological
there. Mm.
Exactly. It triggers us
Hmm.
on a biological level, maybe even before a mental level, because of an old memory. So if there was any time in your life where you felt whether it's triggered or unsafe in with certain kind of people or in certain environments, then as an adult, when you are faced in similar environments, the body holds that memory and gets triggered immediately. Okay. So the body can also impact the mind and say, oh my God, this is not safe environment. But it is
Hmm.
a perceived, it's also perceived based on old memories. So this is where, somatics come in place, and that we need to also help the body release fear and stress and tension. And there's many tools for that. And it could be through shaking, through literally like shaking off tension. There's
Hmm.
a lot of movement practices, conscious movement practices. Breath work is an amazing kind of tool to help you create shift in your biological system. But to keep it like simple for now, for anyone listening and is very new to this, if you are in a moment where your body is like, suddenly I'm like, what is this? Like my body is
Mm-hmm.
shifting into this fight flight state and I'm not even aware of it. Long, deep breathing, scientifically proven, research based, and is the oldest yogic
Mm.
technique. Just
Yeah.
bring your hands towards your belly. Inhale, expand the belly out. Exhale, bring the belly in. That activates your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and recover system. And your body receives a message that I am safe and sends it to the mind that I am safe. But do it for 3 to 5 minutes. I've struggled with anxiety in my life, and 478 technique. I don't know if you know it, but I'll explain very briefly. You,
Oh, in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8.
that's it. 478.
Okay.
In for 4 through the nose, hold, and then exhale from the mouth for 8.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do this for 3 minutes. It saved my life many times. Like you
Yeah,
really, really amazing technique. Yeah.
it's really powerful. And I remember when I first, I don't, yeah, well, my first introduction to breathwork, and I was like, oh, okay, this is so complicated. With like, I mean, there, of course, also like advanced techniques and stuff. Um, But basically, I once then had a practitioner explain it, like say to me, look, basically, you just need to exhale longer than you inhale.
I
That
love it.
basically it. And I'm like, okay, this sounds simple. I can do that.
Exactly. Don't complicate it. There's many techniques.
Yeah,
And
4, 7, 8.
course, I would say for the
Yeah.
topic of fear, anxiety, all of that, if you're in a moment where you feel like your body is out of control, 478, wow. And if you do that while you're doing the affirmation, I am safe, exhale, I am safe, I'm supported, I'm enough. Oh my
Hmm.
God. It just changes things around with minutes.
Hmm.
Really. I've tried that. I can affirm
Yeah, tried that,
it.
got been there, done that,
Been there, done
100%.
that. Exactly. And that's the body and mind. And there's many tools, but honestly, like just start there and you'll already see
Hmm.
a huge shift.
Mm. That's, I think that's really good advice to, so for anyone listening in, if you ever find yourself back into a more acute state, a situation of anxiety or fear, either for 5, 4, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, God, can I count? Or 4, 7, 8, whatever speaks more to you.
Yeah.
Go do that. Keep it in your toolbox. Um, so what you've really, like what you said before, right? Like play it in your mind when, like, what would happen, right? And then kind of counteract it. So let's let's go from there and be like, okay, we
Mhm.
learned like how fear can shape our decision making process, right? Like how we say something, perceive something as a threat because we don't want to like. Usually, it's something like that is that a threat that threatens our identity of self, our roles in identity, or roles and identities in our groups of, and our belonging, basically.
Mhm.
How can we, what is the the ideal balance of fear, giving fear its place in the decision making process, right? I mean, I don't want anyone to do something truly reckless, right? I feel fear has its place,
Yeah.
but we're often, it's really hard to dial it in just right.
Yes. I love that. Um, and yeah, again, going back to thank you, fear, right? Because we
Thank you,
need a bit of
fear.
fear. We need a bit of fear, and we need to find that balance. And I guess that balance comes back to a lot of a mix between the rational mind and intuition, right? So
Mm,
rationally, really looking at what's the real risk here. And if there's, again, this is where you have to look at the negatives and maybe writing
yeah,
things down, even especially if you're taking big decisions in your life.
yeah,
And
like leaving your job
like
or
leaving your
something like that.
job or again big decisions, but also in the moment decisions. Do I say yes to this or do I say no? My
Mm-hmm,
friends are telling me to go on this crazy last minute trip, okay? And sometimes you don't know, you maybe perceive a few risks
mm-hmm,
and you're gonna have to weigh them. and you're gonna have to take a moment or two to actually look at those risks and look at the opportunities at the same time. So always looking at the positive and negative, but then coming back to what we call the neutral mind, which is kind of seeing things for what they are, okay, and
No
trying,
labels, not
yeah,
good
like
or bad.
be like the judge who's kind of seeing
Mm.
the reality for what it is and kind of saying, this is the verdict, like this is my decision,
Yes, love
right?
it.
I see things
Hmm.
for what they are, the risk, and then I decide. But I would say intuition plays a big role here. And most of the times, within seconds, you probably already know if something is good for you or not, if something's going to be harmful for you or not. But you need to be really in tune with your intuition. And most of the times, intuition is speaking to you through the body, actually. So when something is really
So that's
risky,
gut feeling.
that gut feeling, and within seconds, you know, when someone says you, come on, let's go, I don't know, to the party or whatever. I'm
Hmm.
just giving an example, but
Hmm.
something in you is like, oh, like, I don't know, right? You need to trust that voice.
Hmm.
That if there's a voice in you that's telling you careful there, or you're getting that in your belly, you feel that a bit like maybe your back is
That clump.
curling.
I have a clump of like,
Yeah, a
ugh,
clump, right? Don't ignore
uncomfortable.
that. We've been so trained to ignore that, right? And to just kind of like just keep going with the flow. You need to trust what your gut is telling you, and you need to practice trusting your intuition. And when something is for you, even if it's scary, your heart's gonna open. You're gonna be like, yes. You're gonna be like,
Mm-hmm.
hell yes, let's do it. You're gonna feel excited. You're gonna feel like, oh my God, even though this is scary, I wanna do it. It feels good. It feels exciting. It feels like the opportunity outweighs the risk, and I'm ready to
Mm-hmm.
take it. So your body is gonna tell you hell yes, or is gonna tell you, whoop, take time with this one.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to be so intuitive and in touch with yourself. You
Mm-hmm.
already know, like within seconds, I would say, what is really scary and what is like,
Mm-hmm.
bingo. Yeah. You get the point.
Yeah, I do. And there's one thing I want to talk before what I briefly mentioned before we go into intuition a bit more, I think. What about though that tricky little spot between you feel your intuition, you have this
Mhm.
gut reaction of yes or no. That's
Right.
immediate. I agree. If you're tuned in, this is immediate. What I feel is tricky is the next step. The longer it takes you, or it takes me,
Mhm.
from acknowledging my intuition to action, the more time my mind has
Right.
to go boo, 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 boo. So this critical period, how can we hold ourselves there? Because the mind usually is then like gives you all the reasons why you should go to the party or you shouldn't go to the party. Like it's good for networking, or it's really bad idea because whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, like I'm gonna give an answer, but I want to say that it all takes practice for
Mm,
sure. It's not something that I think overnight we can achieve, but it is that idea of holding our power. You know, when we know something is good or right for us, you know, there's this energy in your solar plexus, it's right above your belly button. It's your power center that
mm-hmm,
when you know something is good for you, you're gonna step into it even if no one else is. And when you know that something is bad for you, if everyone else is going, you're going to say no. And
mm,
that takes confidence and self-empowerment, and you really trusting and believing in yourself, trusting yourself before anything and anyone outside. And I would say that takes a bit of practice, but it is really that fiery energy that is right there in your center, in your core. And
mm-hmm,
you can practice that. You can practice that physically, like by strengthening your actual core, but
mm-hmm,
also energetically by tuning into my power, my voice, my kind of like, I said boundaries that even when my mind, I've taken my decision, like I felt this is wrong for me, I'm not gonna take the risk. And my mind's like, come on, like they're all going. Right. This is when you're gonna be like that mom almost. It's like, hey, I said no is a no, and I'm holding that. So hold yourself. It's like holding yourself, holding your
mm-hmm,
decision, holding onto it. And that comes from a deep sense of trust in self and practicing empowerment and holding yourself together, that you're not shaken by external things because you're really holding
You're
your
really
truth.
rooted
You're
in
really
your own
rooted
power.
and grounded. And I agree with you. That's why I said I'm going to say it, but to mention that, yes, that takes practice. But I feel like the more you practice that, I found that in my 30s, it became so easy. In my 20s, it was so hard because
For
obviously,
sure.
yeah,
Yes.
in my 20s,
Yes.
I'm still not sure and I don't care and I want to satisfy people and I don't have boundaries. But in my 30s, I mean, within seconds, if something doesn't feel good, it's just a no is a no and I know it and I practice it and it's done. And honestly, to empower yourself through it, I think physically, like really, there's a physical aspect to it because there is a strength in the physical aspect.
Mhm.
But it's a daily practice of meditation and connection to yourself, where when things happen where you are shaken off your ground, you can hold yourself together. You're not losing yourself, you're
Mhm.
holding yourself.
And also, like, it's important the more like to have a gentle hold on yourself, because if you're too rigid, if you're too
Mm.
stiff, you cannot bounce back. It's almost impossible, right?
Mm.
Like, I always think of like tennis players or Serena Williams, right? When she's on the court, or when she was on the court, she was so bouncy, so fluid, so flat. Like, if she would be like rigid, she couldn't move. So it's really
Mm.
hold yourself, like that strength to ground yourself. It's gentle in approach,
Love it. Yeah. Yeah,
right?
I really love what you're saying. Yeah, it's making me think of that like balance between masculine and feminine as well, right?
Oh
Is
yeah,
yeah.
beautiful.
And
Mm-hmm.
like we spoke about fire, like I was talking about fire, and fire is masculine, right? So in that moment where you need to be like, no, I made my decision, like that's fiery energy, that's masculine energy. And then the feminine, the flow is water energy. And that's inviting a bit of that flow that, like, I'll give an example that's more maybe personal. I was
Mm-hmm.
someone who's very kind of strict with my routine and my habits and no, like I'm sleeping early so I can wake up early for my meditation. Again, like very strict with my routine to a point because I loved that sense of empowerment, but to a point where I started to notice how it's getting in the way of my social life. So
Mm-hmm.
I would challenge myself to every once in a while say, I'm not meditating today, actually. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
out late instead. So inviting flow and flexibility. Again, I think it's different from one person to the other, and you tuning in to when is flow
Mm-hmm.
needed, and how flow can come in the empowerment. It's a balance of the two. And the more you have balance in the two, the more you are empowered,
Yeah,
actually.
that is such a good point. It reminds me of I have every now and then I have a client coming to me. It's like, oh, there's this problem. I have this problem with XYZ. And when we talk, it always often becomes clear it's not actually their problem.
Mm.
Someone else perceives it as a problem, right? It's only when you realize what you beautifully illustrated with your example of the meditations, right? It's only when you realize, oh, actually, no, I want to be more flexible. I want to go out with my friends. I want to do other things. I don't want to be bound to my strict schedule.
Mm.
Then it's becoming a problem. Only when you decide this is a
Mm.
problem,
Exactly.
not when someone else's decides it's a problem.
Yeah. And sometimes you can have fun with it, as in I'm I'm strict most of the time. I'm a super Capricorn. Like I
Oh
just
God, yeah, it's giving me Capricorn energy. I'm like, I cannot. I'm a double Gemini. I cannot. Like, I'm out.
I'm like I have a structure for everything.
Love it.
So sometimes it's really hard for me to flow and invite flexibility. So I challenge myself to go against the structure. And I challenge myself to say, okay, let me just let go of all of the routine today and see how that feels. So yeah, I love that this is coming up because it can be a challenge. And for some people, the challenge can be the opposite, as in they're too in the flow and letting go. And sometimes they need to challenge themselves to go on a 10-day meditation challenge. And that feels like, whoa. So again, noticing where you are in that
Mm-hmm.
balance. And like you're saying, finding what you need and how you want to play with it and test it and go to
Mm-hmm.
the other extreme and see how that feels.
Oh, I feel for anyone listening in, this could be like a very good challenge. Like challenge yourself maybe for the next 7 days to every day look at like what do I need? Do I be more like do I need more fire energy? Do I need more Capricorn energy or do I need more like water energy and be like more fluid and flexible with all the frigidness I got going on with all my systems?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just see. And I mean, if you cannot drop your entire systems for the day, that's fine. But maybe I'm sure if you're really honest, there's some, at least something every day you can be either more flex or more strict about.
Yeah. And if I could say that most of us, because of the system, we are more rewarded to be in fire masculine energy.
Oh, yes. I mean, yeah, love
Exactly.
this late stage capitalism.
Yeah. So I feel like the biggest challenge for most people will be to be a more flow, feminine allowance. And that's an ongoing journey for me of learning. But I'm really learning that the more you practice it, again, go to the extreme of letting go, surrendering, flowing,
Mhm.
the more that in the moment you would know, like we were going back to intuition and trusting and knowing how to hold it, you would know
Mhm.
that in this moment I can let go and invite flow, or in this moment I need to hold myself together and bring in that masculine.
Mhm.
But we have been training the masculine for way too long. So train the feminine, train the flow so that in the moment you'll be able to instantaneously kind of lean on the energy that is needed. And that takes practice. Again, it's really a lot of practice, but it's a beautiful exploration, I would say.
Okay, let's course correct on the challenge. Let's do a 7 day challenge where we kind of course correct the masculine and retrain the flow,
I would say
right?
so. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that sounds great. Like what could you get like for inspiration, could you give us like a handful of examples how that could look like? Like it's and
Yeah.
usually I remember from what similar work I've done, like it's incredibly small, right?
Hmm.
Some things are incredibly small, and that
Yeah.
is okay. Even maybe they have to be if you've never done this and you're like already like, I don't know, having cold sweats when you think about it, then you have to go even smaller. But
Yeah.
what could be like
Hmm.
5 ways to train for flow every day?
So, what I would say first about flow, and I love where this is going, this conversation has evolved so beautifully. So, what I would say first about flow is you can start with a structure, but then allow yourself to flow in the structure. So, let's say, for example, let's
Mm.
go back to a meditation routine. Okay. I love meditating. So, if I have, I meditate every day, instead of saying every day I'm going to meditate and it's going to be 20 minutes and I'm going to be at 7 a.m. sharp on my mat meditating and this is how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
No. Instead, I'm going to say, I'm meditating, but maybe today it's a walking meditation and I'm
Mm-hmm.
just inviting mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe tomorrow my meditation is that I'm eating without the TV on. So I'm keeping my meditation structure, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm allowing for spontaneity in
Mm-hmm.
how it's happening. That's a small example of you don't feel like you're letting go, I'm ditching meditation and I'm flowing. No, it's not
Yeah.
about it's about allowing for spontaneity. Another way is, for example, again, like maybe today I'm not gonna clean the dishes at night, but I'm gonna clean the dishes when I feel energy and
Mm-hmm.
I feel good about putting some music on. So I'm gonna wait and see if there's another moment in the day where I feel more inspired to make the dishes. So again, it's not about feeling like I have to do something now
Or just
because
mindlessly doing the dishes
yes,
because you're always doing the dishes at this
yes,
exact
exactly.
moment.
It's moving away from like, I have to do it now or else, this masculine linear way, to the
Mm-hmm.
dishes will be done and I'll do it when it feels like the right moment.
Yeah.
Let's, if you want, let's have more concrete examples. More concrete examples is especially for creative people or business owners, but also if you have a passion, let's say, is instead of forcing tasks. So, for example, let's say I like to write. So instead of saying tomorrow I'm going to wake up early in the morning and write that thing that I've been wanting to sit and write, an article or a blog post or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is. Instead of that linear forcing masculine energy, I'm just gonna say I really feel like writing. I'm gonna go and see when's a good moment in the week where I'm inspired to write. And I just let go. And instead of following a structure, I just invite flow. And maybe I go for a walk. And while I'm walking, I get inspired and I take my phone and write that blog post within minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the moment. So again, instead of putting structure on tasks, putting an intention for a task, that in the next week somewhere I'm going to write an amazing article and I'm going to feel when the right
Mm-hmm.
moment for that is. There's
Yeah,
so
that's beautiful because the flow
Mhm.
only comes when I know for me when I'm feeling good, when I'm taken care of, when I'm full, when I'm like excited, happy, joyful, when I have moved my body, when I've slept enough, like then
Yeah,
I know it kind of like will fall into place.
yeah. And I would say flow has a lot to do with feeling. That's like emotions,
Mm,
again, water, emotions, feeling, feminine. So it's about feeling what do I need in the moment versus forcing because I said that I will work on this now. I said I will do this now and I haven't. Moving to what do I feel I want to do right now? Oh, I
what do
want
I need?
what do I need in this moment? Or a walk. And then letting go that even though it feels stressful to take a break for 2 hours and go for the longest walk on a Monday, right? Trusting that in that something magical could happen. I could meet
Mm-hmm.
someone, I could get inspired by a new creative idea, I could feel rejuvenated. Things
Mm-hmm.
could happen. And that is flow, is
Mm-hmm.
feeling what I need every moment and leaning into that. I know that could be hard because we all
Oh,
have
it
schedule.
goes completely against the
Exactly.
way the system conditioned us, right?
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
revolutionary actually to be in
It's
flow.
it's really not easy, but we can practice simple ways,
Yeah.
and eventually you might be just living in flow and magic happening all the
Yeah.
time.
I remember like when we also had to one of the first steps back when we said okay, we want to be more fluid, more flexible. We dis we disconnected processes, sequences, and time.
Mm,
So instead of saying, oh, we'll all, I don't know, every morning at 6 o'clock, I would meditate,
exactly.
it would just become every morning before breakfast, I would meditate.
Hmm.
Right. So whether I would get up at 6 o'clock or at 8 or 9, 9, what am I kidding? I have a 5 year old never getting up at 9. So like it's just letting go of time because it
Yeah,
doesn't every I don't know. The same as like every day dinner is at 6. Like
yeah,
no,
yeah, yeah.
it just
And
kind of like disconnecting the timeline.
I love that. I know, Jen, like one amazing example I love is relationships, especially if someone's dating, because we love to control. And the
Oh
moment
God, yes.
yeah, like masculine is all about control. Like, masculine energy is about controlling my schedule, my time, what I'm doing, when and who, how I'm doing it. And in relationships, a lot of us, want to control, like, no, this has to go this way, and why did it end the way I wanted? It's maximum control. But when you actually let flow, as in, how am I really feeling about this? What do I want to do today with this? Tomorrow can be different. What if I allow things to move and let the natural course of things kind of happen on their own without me wanting to control the outcome? Letting go of controlling the outcome and what's meant to be and how this person is meant to be in touch with me and things evolving is also a beautiful way to just be in your feminine power in the moment, present, enjoying what is without worrying and controlling the future. That is also feminine flow. There's so many examples.
Oh, they're beautiful. And it's really I think it's a really beautiful notion to end this podcast with the words you just said. Like it whatever is kind of like meant for you is meant for you.
Exactly.
And yeah, there's this song, Que sera, sera, whatever
Oh, I
will
love it.
be, right?
Yeah.
Like it's and just kind of like, yeah. So we'll challenge you to find
Mm.
more flow in the teeny
Yeah.
tiny nooks and corners of your life.
Yeah.
Start small and see where it leads you.
Yeah, and to lead it to fear, that is the most beautiful way to let go of fear because when you're
Mm.
surrendering to what is the moment and you're trusting and you're allowing, there's nothing to be really scared of. You're just present with what is. So that is beautiful.
Oh, we've came full circle.
Full
So this is,
circle.
yeah. Ooh, Jana, this has been brilliant. I think we have said everything there is to say. We came beautifully full circle. I feel we leave super inspired and hopeful, and this is always, I don't know, my aim for every episode to not have like a doom episode, but always kind of like leave on a inspiring note.
Yes.
So if people want to hear more from you, where can they find you online? Tell us.
So my handle on Instagram is the best place to follow me at Tune In with Jana. That's the best way to reach out to me for any questions or inspiration as well. You'll be very welcome on my page.
Perfect. And I know you have a lovely little offer for everyone tuning in, a breakthrough session. Do you want to tell us a bit about it?
Yes, this is an opportunity for anyone who is experiencing kind of feeling that stuck in their comfort zone or just experiencing a lot of fear, self-doubt about moving into your passion, your dream, taking steps forward in your life.
Mm,
45-minute free breakthrough session, which just entails you untapping or tapping into what is holding you back and
yeah.
creating a plan forward for yourself. So let me know that you came from this podcast and we'll book your free breakthrough session.
We're gonna link it in the show notes. So if at one point, dear listener, if at one point in your mind went, yes, but Jana, this is the sign to book that session.
I love it. Yes, but
Yes, but that's a telltale sign to book the session. Believe me, I know. So I have one last question before I let everyone off the hook on these conversations. What book are you currently reading, or what audiobook are you currently listening to?
oh God, I'm always like reading 10 books at a time, but
Yeah, yeah, I know the feeling. And there's a different. I have two personalities: the person who buys books and the person who actually reads them.
I know I'm always like, okay, I like this, but I want to start this new one. And I'm reading like 10 at the same time. But one book that is really actually related to our last conversation is Women Who Run with Wolves.
Oh, that's a beautiful book.
I'm really loving it, and it's really all about empowering ourselves to tune back into our intuition, trusting in our inner power, leaning into our feminine
Hmm.
power. So, if you're on this challenge with us to lean into the flow, that's a beautiful book.
That's the book club list. That's book club reading.
Perfect. Yes, it is.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being on a scenic route with me, Jana.
Thank you for having me. It was pure pleasure. Thanks a lot, Jennifer.